Hi, my name is Chidima Biakalam and I am a childhood consultant and also a family coach. And what does that mean? I deal with children and everybody that has anything to do with the child. So I talk about children areas as regards their development, their learning styles, and everything and anything that has to do with the child. I also do parenting conferencing and I also do teacher conferences, just talking about the child. It's all about how the child matters. I'm married, I have 4 children, I have 2 young adults and 2 teenage children. And aside my training, I have also gone through the experience of doing stuff that has to do with parenting and children. And today we are going to be looking at the different parenting styles and how your parenting style can affect the kind of child you're raising or the kind of adult your child becomes based on what you have done as a parent. Okay, I always get the question like, what does it take to be a parent? Is it not trial and error? Just do what you can, feed the child, take care of the child. What does it mean to take care of the child? And sadly, I say sadly because no child is born with a manual. So we buy a television set or a phone and then it comes with a manual and it says to us, this is what you should do, this is how you should operate. But no child is born with a manual. So how then, why is it then important for us to be talking about these things? So researches have been done. There are experts who have done this research based on studies, observations, outcomes, seeing, okay, this culture did this or these people did this and this is the outcome of consistent behavior of doing certain things. This is the output and the outcome. And then that is how we came about these different parenting styles. So basically now there are 4 types of parenting styles that research has gone into. I can add a 5th one, which new research has added, but then let's just focus on the 4 major ones that has gone through a lot of empirical studies. So we have the authoritarian parenting style, we have the authoritative parenting style, we have the permissive parenting style, and we have the neglectful or uninvolved. I've heard people say, I don't like the word neglectful. It makes me look like a very bad person. But then it's neglectful or uninvolved parenting styles. Now, what are parenting styles? Parenting styles, just like the name implies, are the things you do as a parent with your children. The consistent thing you do, not just a one-off thing. Of course, we can see the one-off things we can do. By the time I mention these parenting styles, we see that there are times when I've been a permissive parent, or I've been a neglectful parent, or I've been an authoritarian parent. But then we say that you adopt a particular parenting style when it is consistently what you do with your child or with your children. Now, does it mean that every parent knows the parenting style? Is parenting not supposed to be something that you're just born with? You have a child and then you know what to do. So we have those instincts. We have the motherly instincts, that thing that nature has put in us to want to protect our young ones. But then if we just go with instincts, then we would just continue to do trial and error. Where does the child's personality, individuality come into what we do? And where does ours come in? We are products of learned behavior. We as parents learned behavior in the sense that what we do with our children, it's either the things we've seen our parents do with us or the thing we have seen other people around us do. So we just reproduce those things, whether the outcome is right or wrong. Some things we dabble into and then voila, the child turns out a particular way. But does it mean that if you adopt a particular parenting style, that for everybody who adopts that style, that the outcome would always be the same? Not exactly. Of course, there are exceptions. But generally speaking, yes. And we know that we do not make rules with exceptions. We use the general things, and that's what makes the exception. So what are these parenting style? What are the different types of parenting style? So I'm going to be starting with the authoritarian parenting style. Authoritarian, usually people confuse this with authoritative. Authoritarian, it's just think of the word dictatorship. Just think of militarian. That's what authoritarian means. So authoritarian parenting style is the parenting style while the demandingness of the parent, which means what the parent expects from the child, it's very high. And the show of love, affection, it's low. So what does that mean? So this is a parenting style where parent is a dictator. What I say is what happens. I do not want to hear your voice. I don't care about your input. If I say move, you move. If I say stand, you stand. Children are not heard. Children are not seen. I boss you around. So this kind of parenting style is a one communication style in the sense that every communication comes from the top, which is the parent. In the home where you see parents use the authoritarian parenting style, there is no room for conversation. There is no room for dialoguing. There is no room for discussions. It is a command like the military. If I say you are going to study medicine, I do not want to hear anything. If I say I don't want you to be friends with this person, I don't want to hear anything. If I say go to bed, I don't want to hear, can I have 5 minutes? Nothing of that sort. So that is what you see in the authoritarian parenting style. So what are the things you see with children whose parents use the authoritarian parenting style? Because the children are used to being commanded, being bossed around, being, told what to do. You find children who are timid. You find children who later on may develop anxiety or depression, children who do not make decisions for themselves, children who are unable to express. Oftentimes, these children have issues with social skills because they do not know how to engage, how to negotiate. So they have learned that everything is, in quote, the way we say it in Nigeria, by fire, by force. And sometimes these children themselves are aggressive because that is the word they know. They have no room for negotiations. So is it outrightly bad all the time, this parenting style? There are times when the authoritarian parenting style may serve a purpose. For instance, children who come from homes where their parents use the authoritarian style oftentimes are said to do well academically because they are pushed, they can be disciplined, they know how to obey instructions and stuff like that. So you can see them have all those things, but inwards, they are resentful of their parents. They are sometimes angry children, timid children, could go through depression and just lacks the ability to have very good relationships, because that is the kind of home where they come from, where the parent says everything and they do not question. The reason why, to a large extent, spanking is associated with the authoritarian style of parenting, it's not only the authoritarian who uses spanking. There are other parenting styles, maybe sometimes the neglectful or authoritative. But for the authoritarian, the reason why it's always associated, spanking is always associated with this type of parenting style is because of the one-way communication thing. You do what I say and you do not do what I say. There are adverse consequences like real corporal punishment. It's the parent that says, I don't have time for nonsense. If you give me nonsense or you give me trouble, I give you double. That kind of parent. So oftentimes, because there is no communication, no conversation, no dialoguing, most times parents who use this parenting style cannot outrightly say they really, really know their children. Because they do not have that time for that conversation, what is the best thing they do when there is disobedience or when something has not happened the way they want? They bring out the rod. So they use the rod. There is no carrot or stick thing here. You don't do what I say. You get the stick. So the stick is often used here. So there is the debate of, is it okay to spank the child? That spanking makes children have low self-esteem, makes them aggressive. That debate is ongoing. So oftentimes what I say around spanking, to spank or not to spank, it's questions like, why are you spanking? What is the age of the child you are spanking? What has the child done for which you are spanking? Are there alternatives to spanking? And how are you spanking? If you spank your child in rage, in anger, because the child has done something and you are so angry and you start to spank, that is abusive. Because in that anger, you hit anywhere, you pick up anything. I've had parents who pick up stools and they hurl it at their child, who bring barbed wires and they whip the child all over the place. So you see the child's body is filled with marks and then they say, I lost it, I was angry. And because that child is smaller than you, you descend on that child, you beat that child up. What if that child is now a taller child, has more muscles than you? Would that be the approach, even if the child really pushed you to the wall? So those are all the questions I would like to ask parents. And the parents who say, I do not believe in spanking. So another question I'll ask you, so what disciplinary method are you using for the child? Do you understand what you should use? And why are you not spanking? So is it a case of, I don't want to be like what my parents did, I want to join the masses? So when it has to do with children, so we have to always ask ourselves those questions. So I really cannot sit here. I have my personal preference, which I may not want to say, but I really cannot sit here to say spanking is outrightly bad. It has worked for some people. We have what we call about reinforcing, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. And then there are people who say, I do not want spanking. But whether you believe in spanking or not, the issue about the authoritarian style of parenting that would always move to spanking is, why are you spanking the child? Is it just to exert control and to inflict pain and to remind the child that you are the one in charge here? If that is the reason why you are spanking the child, then you may need to look beyond yourself and ask yourself, this is about the child and not about me. In no order of importance, the second parenting style I would want to talk about is the authoritative parenting style. Authoritative is different from authoritarian. So authoritative parenting style is a kind of style where there is a two-way communication. And what does that mean? It means instructions can come from the parents, then there is feedback from the children, there is engagement both ways. It's not a democratic parenting style. I've heard people say authoritative is a democratic parenting style. I personally do not think parenting should be about democracy, because in a home, except for parents who have one child or two children, usually the children outnumber the parents. So should there always be a vote? So what makes you a parent if you always have to ask your children, should we go to the left or should we go to the right? And the children say, oh, we think we should go to the left. And even when you think the left should not be where we should go to. So I would not call the authoritative parenting style a democratic parenting style. It is not necessarily the opposite of authoritarian. It just means that in this parenting style, everything is high. Demandingness is high. That means the expectation parents place on their children is high. The authoritative parents is not saying to the child, oh, well, you can take your time and do what you want when you want it. No, I expect you to have good grades. I expect you to have good manners. I expect you to be disciplined. However, I will show you how to have these things. And while I'm having these expectations of you, demanding this of you, I am supporting you. I am also high on the way I show you love, on the way I show you support. So this is the kind of home where when parents give instruction, they back it with information. So they don't just say, you are going to read medicine because I said so. So they say things like, I would want you to read medicine because I have seen that you have the potential to do that. So there is a conversation, you know the child's strength, your child is able to talk to you. But of course, the final decision rests on you as a parent. You are supposed to be like the guide, you're supposed to be the guard, you're supposed to be the coach, you're supposed to be the mentor. You are the one who leads the way. The work of a parent is to train Just let's imagine what a trainer does with someone who wants to box. You are training your children to know how to live in this world and to live well, not to live as losers. So there are ways you want to train them. You want to give them confidence. So as you're giving your instructions, you're listening to them, they are talking to you, you are telling them what to do, your expectation is high, your show of love is high. Unlike the authoritarian parenting style, it is a one-way communication style. The expectation and demandingness is very high, but the show of love is low. So you don't see parents hug and say things like, I love you there, and listen. What do we now see with parents who use the authoritative parenting style in their families? We see more confident children. We see children who are disciplined, but at the same time, they are confident. We see children with good social skills because they have learned to engage their parents. We see children who make good grades because their parents teach them the importance of hard work. Their parents expect high from them. We see children who behave well. But at the same time, these children are not timid. They are not fearful, like what we see with the authoritarian parenting style. These children are not afraid. They are not anxious. Why? The parents have not left it in their court to say, oh, well, because we have had this conversation, do as you please, make your mistakes. But we see parents who do not try to save their children from life. So the authoritative parenting style is that kind of parenting style where the children know that my parents expect high from me, a lot from me. I need to do well at this. I need to do good at this. I need to be this kind of person. I'm not going to give in to nonsense, to laziness, to all of those things. But at the same time, I know that when I have failed, I can still go home. I can still go to my parents. I can still get their support. I can still get their encouragement. And I will not be demeaned or ridiculed. But at the same time, I'm not going to get pampered. I'm going to be told, stand up, move it, but I'm still here. That is the authoritative parenting style. So the permissive parenting style, like the name shows, is a parent who says, I'm your friend, we are buddies, we are guys, let's do this. I'm not showing you what to do, just you discover life yourself. I'm just here, let's just, the word is permissive, where the parent is so keen and interested about being the friend. In fact, let me use the word buddy. They are so afraid of disciplining their children. They don't want their children to be unhappy. They are afraid of their children not loving them, not liking them. And oftentimes, permissive parents are parents who either have been parented by permissive parents themselves, and that is what they know to do, or they have been parented by authoritarian parents. So because the parents have been authoritarian and they go things like, my papa show me shege. So because my papa showed me shege, I will not be this kind of parent to my child. So they move to the other extreme. So you go into the home where there is the permissive parenting style. What do you see? Children do as they like. They do as they please. They can jump on the couches. They can talk to their parents anyhow. You see them in a public place. The mom says, it's time to go. And the child says, no, I'm not going. And the parents like, okay, just take a deep breath. It's okay, it's fine. When do you want us to go? So in the permissive parenting style, the parents are always asking the children, what do you want to do? What do you want? What will make you happy? Their key interest is they just want happy children, happy. So they are consistently, what do I do to make my child happy? If discipline is very low. So just like in authoritarian parenting, the demandingness is high, which is the expectation parents have on their children is high, but the show of love is low. And in the authoritative, the demandingness and expectation is very high. The show of love is also very high. For the permissive parent, the demandingness or expectation is very low, super low. But the show of love is super high. So if we plotted a graph with the permissive parent, what we are going to see is when it has to do with expectations or demandingness, very low. But then when we see love, so those are the parents, they are always sweet. They are the kind of parents that when you were a child, you're like, why can't my father just be like my neighbor's father. You know those parents that will allow the children to play football even when it is dark because the children want it. When the child throws a tantrum, they get what they want. When they want ice cream, they just get what they want. I have seen children growing up, they just go home and say, I don't like this school, I want a different school. Oh, you don't like this school? Don't worry, we are going to change the school for you. So children just get what they want. That is a permissive parent. So what kind of child does a permissive parent raise? Children that will be confident. Surprising, don't be surprised. Confident children, because a permissive parent allows the children to express, to be themselves. So no doubt they are confident children. But where does this confidence lie? There is a thin line between their confidence and being brats. Because in being confident, they have not also been taught boundaries. There are no boundaries. They were not given boundaries. So they encroach people's boundaries. They do not know where to stop. They do not even know how to tell people to stop. So they are children that would likely have issues in their relationships because they do not know where to stop. They've never been told this is where a boundary lies, this is what you shouldn't do, this is what you shouldn't say. They do as they please. So they are going to have issues with their colleagues at work. They are definitely going to have issues with their spouses. They are going to have relationship problems. Because when someone says to them no, they are confused. They are totally confused. Like, why? So you see children who, even they go to an auntie's house and they say, no, you can't have that. They are shocked. Some of them, depending on the age, go into tantrums. In fact, we even see tantrums in adult life. Those are the men who, they want to have what they want to have. And their wives say no, they really get into rage. They have not been raised with any form of boundary. They get what they want. But you know the truth, life does not give you what you want all the time. Life doesn't work that way. So you put your children at risk when every time your answer is yes. Honey, yes, you can get that. Darling, yes, you can have that. Darling, yes, you can do that. Life is not that. Parents like this make their children the center of attention. They give them the impression that life, the world revolves around you. And you stand the chance of raising a narcissist, the kind of child that feels like everything is about me, for me, and by me. So they take no's in a very hard way. And sometimes their confidence that they have built may also be deflated, because by the time they start to face the real world and see that people do not like them because they do not respect boundaries and they do not respect no's, what happens to them? Anytime people start having relationship problems, oftentimes they start to deal with depression because they do not understand what's going on with them. So you hear adults say things like, or even children, teenagers, people don't like me. Most times my friends don't like me. That's what happens with permissive parenting. And parents who do permissive parenting are so keen about being liked by your children. And let me just add this. So for parents who are listening to me and watching me, at a particular age in your life, especially when your children are still very little, the early years, do not bother about your children liking you or loving you. Truthfully, research shows that their brains are not wired that way. Children do not have the ability at that age to love, to hate, to like. Yes, they can throw all those tantrums and be like, oh, I don't like what my mom is doing. But children do not have the ability. So you are not bent over like, oh, I want my children to love me. I knew how I felt about my mom. It's not necessary. As you do the right things with your children and they turn out well, and see as adults how life is better with them because of what they remember you have done with them, trust me, that is when the love starts. There are so many adults who say, oh, I thought my mom was wicked to me, but I really thank God for my mom that she stopped me from doing XYZ. So permissive parenting does not help. It doesn't help any child. Children want boundaries. We may think they do not want boundaries. Children, toddlers, teenagers. There was a research done for toddlers in a playground, and they removed the barricade around their playground. The research shows that most of those toddlers huddled together. They could not play. Why? Because when they looked around and did not see that barricade, they did not have a sense of security. They did not have a sense of safety. They felt exposed. Then the research went on to show that when they put that barricade, the children started playing. Why? Because they felt that that thing that fenced off shows that nobody can hurt me, nothing can come to me, and they were free. Just think about it psychologically. That is how our children feel. When as permissive parents, we don't give them boundaries. We give them the impression that anything in life can just come at them and that you passively watch it happen to them. Okay, my name is Chidima Abiakalam. Again, I'm a family coach and a child consultant. And today we have been talking about the different parenting styles and how your parenting style affects your children and what you can do to ensure that you use the parenting style that works best. Thank you and God bless.